Hi, everyone. Welcome to Authors on the Air. I'm James Latwell, your host, and we're part of the Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. And it's my pleasure today to sit down and talk with Elise Hart Kipness. Hi, Elise. How are you?
Hi, James. I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's this is gonna be fun. Now, we're gonna learn more about Elise and the book, but she's really got a fantastic background, and she puts it really into her book. Her release, actually, this is release week, so it's great for Dangerous Play. It's the second in the Kate Green series. And yeah, I mean, Kate was involved in all kinds of shenanigans in her debut when she came out, and you got a lot of really good critical praise and acclaim for the book as a
Thank
debut.
you.
So, and
Thank you.
it's kind of fun to see. Some people talk about that sophomore slump. I didn't see that at all in Dangerous Play. I mean, Kate Green is back, and she's back with a vengeance.
I really appreciate that. I heard a lot about that when I turned. I hope you don't hear my dogs. Do you hear them? They're like yap 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 yap.
Yeah,
Okay, good. All right, they're enthusiastic. They're like, it's
that's right.
release week.
They're your fans.
They're my fans. Um, so, so I was concerned about that, but at the same time, I was given advice that in the second book in a series, it's really good to dive into the character and their background and get to know them. So I think because of that, and that's what I took that advice and I went into that. It was a really fun book to write. I actually personally think it's a little better than Lights Out. I'm really proud of it. Now I'm worried about the third book.
Yeah, no, I think you did really uncover a little bit more about what Kate's about and her background, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But give folks an idea of the story. I mean, what Kate finds herself in the middle of, really, in this book.
Yeah, absolutely. So in Dangerous Play, the Olympics come to New York City, and Kate is assigned to cover women's soccer. And if you read Lights Out, and you don't have to have read Lights Out in order to read Dangerous
Right.
Play, but if you did, you would know that Kate is an Olympic soccer gold medalist turned TV sports reporter. And she's also coming off a very embarrassing and very public suspension. So she goes to Yankee Stadium where they're actually playing soccer and not baseball during the Olympics. And she goes into the locker room at a match and finds a murdered body. And the body belongs to someone she recognizes from decades ago, Alexa Kane. And Alexa was someone that Kate played soccer with as a teenager. They played on the youth national team and they were really close friends and roommates and teammates. Kate feels really guilty about how their relationship ended. She feels like she let her friend down. So when she discovers Alexa's murdered body, she vows, I'm not going to do that again. I am going to get to the bottom of what happened in this murder, even if it exposes secrets from the past that Kate and others at the Olympics would rather stay buried.
Yeah, and you touched on it right there, the secrets. I mean, you've got Kate and Alexa and the soccer coach Savannah. They
Yeah.
all share this background, this secret. I'm not going to ask you to give that away, but what is it about secrets like that are just so powerful and yeah, I mean, they suck the reader in, but they just drive all these characters, to extremes. What is it about that?
I I'd like to think that it's touching on something that readers can feel familiar with. They can understand that so many people have children or have experience with youth soccer and or
Yeah.
youth sports. I shouldn't say youth soccer. And so maybe it's familiar and the experience or kind of your worst nightmare of what might happen to your kids or what might have happened to you. I think secrets are like the most delicious when there's something that's possibly have been in your world but maybe didn't go that far or something, but they're familiar in a way.
Right. And there seems to be more secrets kind of lurking around Kate's life when we talk about her estranged father and
Yeah.
learning more and more about him. And I kind of have a feeling we'll learn even more about him as the book and the series continues. But how did you kind of come up with that subplot? With her father and that relationship.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from. That was one of the things that just kind of popped out in some subconscious thing. And it's funny because I get asked about my relationship with my father all the time.
Mm,
And like my dad's great, and he's more like the stepfather in the story, there for her and biggest cheerleader, like really good dad. Um, but I don't know. I don't know where he came from, but he is one of my favorite characters. I really do like him, and he's kind of a very interesting person to do a deep dive into. I mean, it helps just structurally as craft that he's a former NY, not a former, that he is an NYPD detective. So you
right.
have that initial tension of she needs his help, but they're estranged and he wants the relationship back. So he has that carrot that he can hold out there for her. So it is structurally, helpful to have him as a character, but he definitely kind of came from somewhere I haven't quite processed yet.
Yeah, no, I like the way you kind of drew that character in, and at the same time, things that Kate believed about him might not be, what happened years and years ago. That I'm looking forward to that story unraveling as well. So
Thank
that was
you.
kind of fun. Yeah. Now
Yeah, yeah.
now Kate is a very driven, successful woman, and she's a sports broadcaster. How much of your personal background did you kind of scrape together to create Kate? And more importantly, how's Kate different than your experience as, a Fox Sports broadcaster and that kind of thing?
Well, as you know, I like to joke about saying, and it's not a full joke. I like to say that Kate is a way cooler version of me. So we're both TV sports reporters. That's our background, and that's what she's doing now. But she's an Olympic soccer gold medalist, and I'm a soccer mom. And literally, I am a soccer mom. My son playing D1 soccer. Oh, good. I heard your dog too. I don't
Yeah,
feel so bad.
yeah.
And and I would drive to Queens from Connecticut to Queens every day to take him to soccer. So it was pretty intense. And Kate chases bad guys through the tunnels of Madison Square Garden and Yankee Stadium, and I chase my dogs around the yard. But I did go into those tunnels. I did spend time in the tunnels of Madison Square Garden and Yankee Stadium, and a lot of my experiences are translated into the book. Even the little things, like I don't know if you remember, but she's talking on air at one point, and the anchor is trying to kind of stump her. He asks
Yeah.
a question that is just ridiculous. Like no one would have the answer to that, and that happened to me when
Mm,
before I was a sports reporter. I was a news reporter, and I got to this story, which was a roof collapsed at a grocery store. No one was hurt, but it was snowing and it collapsed. I got there like seconds before my live shot, and I get on air and I'm able to report the basics. And the anchor literally asked me, "How much does the snow weigh that had the roof collapse?" Like she knew I didn't know the answer, and like she just was coming for me. And clearly I hold on to that. But I put that in the book, and Kate and I also learned when I got back. A senior reporter pulled me aside and he's like, "Well, this is what you do when someone tries to do that to you. You ask yourself a question." And so I learned how to maneuver it, and I did put that in the book. So there's a lot there that's real or based on what I really saw.
yeah, I kind of got the sense that there was some of that going on because yeah, and that particular exchange kind of stood out to me. But you know, Kate's got this very, I would think, very prestigious assignment of covering, women's soccer in the Olympics, and I could sense that some professional jealousy, in that relationship, and the way that played out, I thought was really kind of cool. Did you see that kind of jealousy of who got what assignment as you were a broadcaster?
Yes, I saw a lot of, uh, I would say I saw it more in my experience in news than I did in sports, because in sports, I
Hmm.
was part of the East Coast Bureau with just one or two other people, and most of Fox Sports Network is based in LA. So we
Ah,
were
okay.
a small group. But in news, yeah, because you're coming and going. I mean, literally, there's a joke, but it's not a joke. It's you're only as good as your last newscast and
Yeah.
your last live shot, and it's true. It's so true. And if you look at just how people
Wow.
churn through stations, it's a stressful job. So yeah, there's constantly people backstabbing and fighting, and it may even be less who gets what assignment, but like who's in favor right now, who's so I guess it is the assignment,
Mm,
who the boss is like. And then what happens on top of it is a news director in New York City rarely lasts more than a year. So like one director can love you. And this happened to me at NBC. Like I was hired by somebody and was great. It was great. And then they either get promoted out of the job or they get fired. And then the
yeah.
next one may not love you so much. So you're also constantly in a state of anxiety because you never know where you stand. It's much more fun to write about it from the security of my house or even in bed, and just like, be the one controlling all the strings.
Yeah. I could see that for sure. And some of the things that Kate faces, in both books, I mean, she's really up against this glass ceiling of women in broadcasting and sports journalism, and she's facing a lot of misogynistic kinds of, really, and sexual harassment kinds of things. Um, she dealt with it really well. How was your experience with that kind of thing? I have to imagine you faced that as well.
Yeah, not as good as Kate. But for like the grace of God for me, I never had it go too far beyond the typical in those
Mhm.
days uh, harassment on a more general level. Like it never went to a crime.
Right, right.
Um, but it could have, like if I didn't zig versus zag, if I once got warned to stay away from somebody who has famously
Right.
torpedoes his career. Um, there were a lot of, but there was a lot of innuendo. There were a lot of issues. There was one time when I was covering the U.S. Open golf, and I was the only woman covering it. And the PR person had it out for me, and
Mm,
he didn't know me. Like we had never met. Um, it was definitely a sexism kind of thing, and he promised that I would have the winner of the US Open for an interview. And that person is getting brought across to everyone who's a TV station. And it's like, this is not a 60 minutes interview. This is, how do you feel about winning the US Open? You want
right.
that interview. It's not something you would shy away from. It's like good publicity for everyone. And I was at a national station, and it was Payne Stewart who won, and he kept bringing Payne to the Golf Channel and ESPN and all these other stations, but not to me. And at one point, my cameraman's like, "You are not getting this interview," and I would get fired for not having that interview. And in hindsight, he should have gotten fired, but I believed, and I'm sure I
Yeah.
was right, that it would have fallen on me. Um, and he's being walked to an area that I'm not allowed in. And my cameraman's like, "Do something." And I scream, I'm like, "Payne, please do this interview." And to his credit, Payne stopped, even though the PR guy had hand on Payne's arm, pulling him away from me, turns around and says, "No, I want to do this interview."
Wow.
So he really saved me. So it's a story of someone like being amazing and also someone being really horrible. And that simmered in my brain for a really long time. It still
That's
does.
amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. But wow. Look,
Yeah.
and kudos to him and for you for pressing on with that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And the cameraman for like screaming at me, like, do something.
Do something. Yeah. So what you mentioned book three. What's Kate up to next? Do you have a can you tell us anything?
Yeah, I can tell you it takes place at the US Open tennis.
Okay.
And it has to do with the players there, and I can't get too much into it, but
Right.
I think it's going to be really fun, and I do promise that the Liam story will finally be resolved.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Ta-da!
So you're a successful your debut was a success. You're on the road with number two here, and you're a co-president of your Sisters in Crime chapter in Connecticut. What can you offer to aspiring authors that are going to follow in your footsteps? What's important for them to kind of remember as they're slogging through on their debut?
That's a great question, and I have a number of suggestions for them. First and foremost is join an organization or join all the organizations like Sisters in Crime, like Thriller Fest, like Mystery Writers of America, and
Mhm.
don't just join them, but get involved. Get involved with your local chapters, go to the conferences, and really dive in because I owe these conferences everything. I mean, I found my agent at Pitch Fest, at
Right.
Thriller Fest, and I wasn't going to go to Pitch Fest, except that my co-president at Sisters in Crime Connecticut, Tessa Wiegert, literally twisted my arm. She's like, you should have an agent. You need to go. And the first time I went to Pitch Fest, my book wasn't ready, and I
Mm,
didn't get an agent. So don't just go once. Like keep at it.
right.
And then the other advice, because community, I think, is the key to all of it. You need community, and
Right.
Tessa May, like literally, I call her for everything, blah 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 blah. So you need a friend, you need a mentor, and somebody who has been there and is willing to take you
Yeah.
under their wing for all the little things. And then I think it's really important to be open to critique. But I think it's important that you listen to critique in two parts. So if someone says, "Oh, this doesn't really work for me. Why don't you try this?" I used to always hear the "why don't you try this?" and be like, "That's a stupid idea," or "You clearly didn't read it carefully enough to suggest that." But the point is listen to the part before that. This isn't working. And
Right.
maybe their suggestion isn't how you would fix it because you've been closer to the book. And that's okay. They're just giving you like a quick thought. But listen carefully to the part about this isn't working and take that to heart and really evaluate it.
Yeah. No, that's very, very true. That's great advice. And yeah, the networking and the relationships you make in this business will make a huge difference in your career as you go on. So that's wonderful.
It really
I
does.
want to, yeah,
Oh, I was just going to say, and
yeah,
I mean, like I met you and you've been so nice and supportive. This is a nice community of people. Oh,
really
it's
is.
so different than my reporting days. Like people read more than one book. They read more than
Yeah,
10 books. So like we're not competition. It's like we all help each other. And if you're successful, that helps other people be successful. So it's a really,
yeah.
really warm welcoming. And we don't take each other ourselves too seriously. So like we're
Right.
happy to embrace everyone.
It is, and it is a fun community, and
Yeah.
not at all what I expected when I started down this path.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
close out with something we call three quick hits,
Oh
and
gosh.
it's
Okay.
I want to put you in Kate's mindset, and three quick questions. What's Kate's favorite cocktail, or what does she like to drink?
Oh, Chardonnay wine and coffee, but that's not a cocktail.
Okay. How about her favorite music? What does Kate listen to?
Ooh, she listens to, I was gonna say 80s rock, but she probably is too young for that. But let's just say 80s rock because I think of her as
Yeah,
being me.
yeah, I can see that. And how
Right?
about what's Kate's greatest fear?
Letting someone down.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that with her.
Can you see that one?
I can
Good.
see that with her. Folks, we've been talking with Elise Hart Kipness, the author of Dangerous Play. It's out this week. So do yourselves a favor. It's a fun read. I know you'll all love it. So, Kate, Elise, Elise, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. This was great.
Okay, take care.
Bye.